Hello and welcome to my channel. Bonjour et bienvenue sur ma chaîne. My name is Mule and happy Halloween or happy Samhain. For the occasion, I thought I would make two witchy reviews. To keep me company today, I have my little Hecate doll and I have this awesome Hecate shirt. So I'm in the right spirit to do this. I will start with a novel that was quite popular on Booktube and received rave reviews and high praise, and a book which, it wasn't bad, I didn't dislike it, but I was disappointed after reading it and I really wanted to like it. And it's Circe by Madeline Miller. I read this summer, so not super fresh in my memory, but sufficiently fresh for me to give my thoughts about it. Now, my overall feeling about this was meh, or in French there's a great little word for this, c'était bof. It wasn't bad, I don't think it's the greatest thing ever, and once again, note to self, do not read the little blurbs from magazines and newspapers they always feel obliged to put in, because it will give a false impression in most cases, or at least that's been my experience. So yeah, that was stupid of me. Okay, so Circe is the story of the witch mentioned in the Odyssey by Homer, well, witch goddess, I should say. Basically, a female character who transforms Ulysses and his crew into pigs. Then Ulysses, because he's so wily and clever, finds a way to seduce her and have her release his men from her spell, and they get off the island, and that's that, and he goes on his extraordinary long voyage. Madeline Miller wanted to flesh out Circe's story, this enigmatic witch living alone on an island who meets Ulysses and transforms his crew into beasts. And this was touted as a feminist retelling of the Odyssey, or the feminist answer to the Odyssey, which after reading this I find incredibly pretentious and a wee bit arrogant, but that's not on the author, that's on the critics. And, you know, was supposed to be really great for lovers of Greek mythology and etc, etc. And I was like, I guess. Not? That's the basic premise. To go into a bit more detail, the main character is Circe, and we basically follow her from her birth to, not her death, but a certain stage in her life where she makes an important decision about the status of her being and then goes off to live the rest of her days. So this technically spans like a few hundred to 1,000 years because she's a deity, and you get to see her living with her family of fellow deities and then living on her island, interacting with a couple of characters until, like I said, she makes a decision and then leaves the island basically. I will say it was well written. The prose was, like I said, I suck at describing writing, but it wasn't too flourished. It was quite simple but elegant. Chapters were pretty short, so I read this fairly quickly, so that's always nice. The character of Circe herself, again, I don't really have any major complaints. It's just that it's a very psychological tale, and I guess I wasn't really expecting that. I was expecting a bit more stuff to happen. Madeline Miller wanted to give a voice to Circe and have her be the actress of her own story, and I felt like she was the side character to her own story, because stuff happens to her and characters come onto an island. Okay, like, I'm gonna be liberally spoiling this because most of this is mythology, like, it's out there. Sorry if you haven't read this, but it's easier for me to talk about this way. Like, at a certain point where she goes to Pasiphae's court, which is her sister, and there's the whole incident with Daedalus and then the Minotaur, and she does deal with Scylla from, Scylla and Charybdis. But fundamentally, she's just on her island. I did enjoy her thoughts about things, her internal monologue. She wasn't a dislikable character by any means. She was flawed. That's always interesting, a grey area character, but fundamentally more good than bad, I would say. Like, even her witchcraft, which should be a central part of her story, wasn't. I didn't feel it was that developed. The other characters, you've got Ulysses, who's kind of an asshole, but interesting, though. It was interesting to read about their relationship and their exchanges. I actually enjoyed that bit. You've got his wife, Penelope, and their son, whose name I've forgotten. You've got a recurrent character, Hermes. Can't believe I blanked on this. Hermes comes to visit Circe from time to time. They're like sex frenemies, is the best way I can put it. Again, Hermes is kind of an asshole. And this is a kind of a running theme. This is something that really, really bothered me in this book. The gods are basically, except for one or two, they're all assholes. Either vain at best or sadistic psychopaths at worst. Like, the ancient Greeks didn't necessarily see gods like that. I mean, it was weird. As someone who's read a lot about mythology and then, you know, paganism and ancient religions, like, this felt really off to me. Like, no. Why? Why are they all such assholes? Because they're immortal? But that's not even a good justification. How is that an argument for them all being assholes? Except for Circe, conveniently. Like, the only female god of importance that shows up is Athena, and she's kind of a B-word. The only nice god was Prometheus, the dude who helped humanity, right? Because humans are the good guys and gods are the bad guys, more or less. That's kind of the overall message I got from this. It's like, even, so Circe has 3 siblings who are all witches, and her favorite brother, who turns out to be Medea's father. Like, you know, that too, I wanted to see Medea's story fleshed out, since she's a fellow witch, and now she sort of just hops in the story and pops out. And, I don't know, he was kind of an ass as well. He starts out being nice enough, and Circe really loves him because he's her little brother, and she feels very protective of him. And then he grows up, and he becomes kind of a jerk. A clever jerk, but a jerk nonetheless. Now, there is Daedalus, a human, and he's a good guy. The poor sod is basically a captive of King Minos and Pasiphae. And so Circe meets him and generally loves him in her own way in that bit of time that is allotted to them. And then, like I said, Penelope is nice, and their son is basically a good guy. And then Circe has herself a son he's okay. It's pretty vague in my mind. Didn't stand out that much to me. The story, I mean, like I said, I'm a huge mythology nerd, and I was like, give me the stuff, give me the stuff. Where's the stuff? They're like, what? 1, 2, 3 and a half major events of Greek mythology that actually gets incorporated into this. I mean, you get mentions here and there of stuff happening that Circe hears about through the godly grapevine. If you're going to promote yourself as a feminist interpretation of mythology, give me that. And this is a major point for me. Like I said, mythology nerd here. The world building, there were a few things that really bugged me with this. The witchcraft. It's never really explained why her or her siblings are witches. It's sort of a power that they're born with, and she can do stuff with plants, which, fine, yeah, that's a traditional part of witchcraft, sure. But I'm like, dudes, Hecate, hello? Huh? This? Like, where the hell was she? Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft. And she's supposed to be a really old deity according to archaeologists, so she should definitely have been there in some fashion. It was just rummaging with plants. It was basically like pharmacology, chemistry, which there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself, but it just felt very weak, the witchcraft element, for one of the most famous witches of ancient literature. And then the mythological aspects themselves were just, like I said, all the gods were assholes. I guess if I'd been told in advance that's the angle she was going for, humanity is flawed, is weak, is broken, but is beautiful, and immortality is garbage. Fine, that's a legitimate take, but that's not what I was expecting at all. Like, even the nymphs, that's a stupid example, but that really bugged me. The nymphs are all vapid, stupid twits, basically. They're there to be pretty and be screwed by other gods. She studied classical literature, and I'm like, that's not what nymphs were seen like in the ancient world. They were nature spirits. You could leave offerings to them. I mean, they were lesser deities, sure, but I feel like the way she portrayed nymphs is like a modern person's stereotypical visualization of what a nymph is supposed to be. It's a caricature more than anything else. And then, like, where are the female deities? Athena comes by. You've got Circe's mum, and there's her grandmother, who's one of the oceanic deities, maybe Tethys. So again, I felt like it was a stereotypical projection of the modern person's average conceptualization of what ancient Greece, ancient Greek culture, and religion was. That felt really weird to me. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not a historian, so I'm not a reference on this either. I'm not pretending to be. But yes, Greek society, ancient Greek society was very sexist / misogynistic. At least some city-states were. See, it wasn't uniformly so, and it wasn't for all of its history. history, because ancient Greek history spans what, 1,000 years? You had different periods with different levels of patriarchy and thus sexism and misogyny. And this was also reflected in mythology and stories about the gods. And this is a running theme in world mythology. Newer generations of gods taking over ancient generations of gods often reflects shifts in societal structuring. And here it's just basically the god society is horribly misogynistic and is an outright patriarchy. And it is thus for 1,000 years, with no change whatsoever, no explanation of where it came from, no attempt at changing it. This might only bother me because I'm really into this stuff. Mythology, comparative religion, feminist reinterpretation of mythology, earth-centered religions, and stuff like that. So I've read a lot on that, and I'm very sensitive to that subject, but that really bugged me in this book. I couldn't buy it. It seemed really basic to me. Basic and stereotypical. To me, the gold standard for that type of thing is the Mists of Avalon. This, not on the same level at all, in my opinion. So all the gods are chauvinistic assholes who just think about raping nymphs. But then all the nymphs are twits and bother the crap out of Circe when they come to do penance on her island when they're too annoying. And never once is there another nymph that stands out. Like, again, it's so bloody convenient that Circe is the only nice human-like deity. All these other nymphs are just airheads who want to vie for God's attentions. Like I said, the overall message is humanity is flawed, is kind of broken, is messy, but ultimately it's much better than the alternative of being a soulless, immortal asshole. Which, fine. And I'm being a bit sarcastic here, a bit salty, I admit that. No, it's a fine theme, that the beauty of flawed humanity, I can respect that. It's also a woman's journey from not knowing where her place in the world is to finding her center and finding meaning in her life. Now, as to the feminism, I don't think it was that feminist either. Like, feminist answer to the Odyssey? Like, really? Another booktuber said this, and I agree with her. One major feminist element that should have been present and isn't is female relationships. Like, where are they? Basically, Circe's interactions with every single female being she encounters, except for the last one, is disdainful, negative, even a little bit contemptuous. She's the only good one out there, right? Not like other girls. Yeah, that's super feminist. No, I'm not like other nymphs, but it amounts to the same thing. So it's a woman finding her place in the world. Yes, I mean, it's not anti-feminist by any means, sure. I don't know, I was expecting something, I guess, more in the vein of the Mists of Avalon. This should have given me a clue. But I don't know, you can do very good stuff in fewer pages. That's not necessarily, an outright limitation. So no, it was like, no, can't agree with all the praise it's gotten. It was alright, but I was expecting so much more, A witch in ancient Greece, mythology, deities, feminism, yes, I want that. Why didn't you give it to me? That being said, I will read out the quotes I took from this novel. A book can be meh to me and still have good quotes in it. So, let me say what sorcery is not. It is not divine power, which comes with a thought and a blink. It must be made and worked, planned and searched out, dug up, dried, chopped and ground, cooked, spoken over and sung. Even after all that, it can fail, as gods do not. Well, what do you have to say to me? You threw me to the crows, but it turns out I prefer them to you. But in a solitary life, there are rare moments when another soul dips near yours as stars once a year brush the earth. Like a snake, the poets might say, but I knew snakes better by then. Give me the honest asp, who strikes me if I trouble him and not before. He showed me his scars, and in return he let me pretend that I had none. But Athena had no babe, and she never would. Her only love was reason, and that has never been the same as wisdom. Perhaps that was why he had been so happy. An idyll I had called our time. Illusion might have been a better word. It is a common saying that women are delicate creatures. Flowers, eggs, anything that may be crushed in a moment's carelessness. If I had ever believed it, I no longer did. So that was not quite a rant review, but yeah, my honest opinion of the bestseller Circe by Madeline Miller. If you agree with me or disagree with me, if you think I didn't get this book at all, fair enough. Please do share in the comments. And the next video will be, as I said, another witchy review, but a much more positive one. In fact, it'll be a rave review. Until then, have a lovely day or afternoon. Bye-bye.